have the time at 6:33, so I will switch over to the right meeting here. So I will call the work session of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia, Monday, March 25th, 2024 to order. We have a quorum, everyone is here. We'll go through the regular business meeting first. We're gonna need somebody for the invocation.
I invited 9 priests, and they canceled. You can pray?
You wanna pray? Awesome. Can I get your name?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Nisha Whitehead.
Nisha Whitehead. All right, Nisha, I will call you up at the time. Thank you.
We're going to invite you back.
And then anyone for the pledge?
Just
Norman?
pick anyone.
We'll have the minutes. Assistant Chief Mattson, you're doing the drone thing?
I am ready.
Then we'll have, under new business, we'll have the award of the bid for the old Public Works building. Yay. Any questions on that?
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
So it's 3 buildings. It's the main primary building that had the office in front, old public works space. Then there's another pre-engineered metal buildings, P&B, that has kind of the face cut off from it, so it's like an open air barn kind of thing. And then there's one building next to that. It's a CMU kind of block wall building with a kind of just a normal roof on it. So all 3 of those will be gone, and the existing chain link fence will be pulled up. The granite wall will stay, but the chain link fence will be pulled up, and that's all will.
So all the barbed wire's gone.
All of our wire will be gone. All that will be gone.
Welcome to the park.
Yeah.
So, just want folks to know kind of the full scope. It's that whole area right there. And both of those buildings are on septic, so the tanks will be removed and properly disposed of and ready for when we're at that phase of the park. And what we'll do with that
When you
space.
hear that, then you go, man, that bid number's really good.
It is really good. It is really good.
Okay, we had on to nominate CJ Pitt to the Planning Commission. However, we can't put him on. He's gonna work for the park this summer, doing some of the summer camps and things, so we can't have an employee on one of the commissions. So we'll remove him, or move that thing, but we, item C, we do have Rose Purdy that we can go ahead, and I'm gonna nominate her to go on, so that will at least give us a quorum for the Planning Commission.
So we're going to eliminate B.
Yes.
Now, do you want to strike that from the agenda, or do you just want to
I would
say-
rather have it come up on the agenda, and then I'll make
withdraw
the
your
announcement,
nomination.
yeah, withdraw that. Because I hate to just remove things on
Yeah.
under the approval of the agenda. I'd rather give people an explanation on what was going on. And then I'm going to nominate Norman to go as the council's liaison to the DDA. He's attended a couple of meetings, and I think hasn't walked out on one yet, so we'll just keep him there. And then so that's everything currently on the agenda. Any correspondence? City attorney's report?
Do you want me to talk about
Yeah,
these?
go ahead.
Okay, so, you may pass these out. We already gave you one.
Yes, I have one.
Todd, you already
Todd's
have
probably
one.
got
Yes.
So we have a provision in our alcohol ordinance that allows for what's called a special event license. Now that is different than the outdoor alcohol special event license like we usually see on the green. So this is a different, the idea was really for, like, a jewelry store that wants to have a special diamond event or something like that, and they want to be able to serve alcohol in that. Kind of a one-off kind of thing. We provide, though, in the ordinance up to 6 times a year. The problem is we really don't have a provision for true event spaces, somebody that wants to do weddings, wants to do wedding reception, those kind of things. So we have some real concerns about the existing status of this provision. And so what we are proposing is that we have a moratorium so that Jason and his department can put together a true event space license that will actually have requirements so that you'll have to have a real bartender, that you'll have to, because one of the things is like, there's no provision here that tells them you have to buy your alcohol from a distributor, which is what you have to do. You can't just go to Sam's and sometimes you see that. You see at Sam's and you see a guy going in there and buying like 20 cases of beer, and it's like, that's not for a party. He's going to buy that for a restaurant, and that is straight up illegal. You can't do that in Georgia. And so we just got some provisions we're concerned about. So we're going to ask if there's a appetite for it to add this to the agenda tonight to put a moratorium down. So I think that's the first thing is everyone in agreement that they want to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah, because I was talking with Matt and Jason earlier this morning about it, and we just don't have that code provision. We've got several of those event spaces that have popped up. I mean, I went to 2 of the ribbon cuttings. One of them is going to do weddings and things like that, and the current provision doesn't work for that kind of space, so we just need to get it defined and then written up. And Jason thinks he can do it.
So will it have to
quickly.
match with the state provisions
Right.
too?
For alcohol.
So, Jason, will we have 2 separate things, one for event spaces and one for random business that?
That's
Or
where
we're
we
just
gotta
gonna do-
dial it in. I mean,
Okay.
that's where we don't, with Chuck's guidance,
Okay.
we'll know like how to match it up. I could write a code right now that would work zoning wise, but we have to make sure it marries to the state system. And that's where it gets a little hard to navigate with spaces that don't have a license that is given directly to them to serve, like an Applebee's or something with an event space. So it needs to be tight because you can have issues with service and things at those establishments. And we don't have that control now. It's kind of just, it's too broad.
Yeah, so it'll define who can use that 6 times a year kind of thing versus
Gotcha.
who would be in
Or it could be
event
totally
space.
different.
Yeah.
And something to consider too as a one-off from this is, how do you want to treat your event spaces in the future too, as far as zoning goes, like, and permissions, like, over time, you've seen where you have some of these like pop-up event spaces that pop up, and it could just be a couple empty spaces, and then all of a sudden, there's almost like a quasi-club running out of them, so calling it catered space. So
Right.
before we get hit with that again, we just need to, I think there's some liability for us. I agree that we do need an avenue for catering spaces or event spaces to serve alcohol. I mean, it's part of the business. You can't do without, but it needs to be, it needs to be honed in and licensed with the state the right way too.
Okay.
It is interesting because I've known some people who have gotten married at certain venues where they could choose to do the alcohol through the venue, or they could go buy all their own alcohol and bring it, but they would have licensed pourers pouring it. So I wonder how there must be a provision in the state to be able to.
Or
allow that.
there's no code.
Yeah, or they're just
Kinda
flying under the.
Yeah, well, I know they weren't Gwinnett County ones, so if it's like county driven,
Yeah, I mean, I've been to places like that as well, and yeah, I think a lot of times, sometimes they're flying under the radar.
Right.
And so, but there's scary liabilities there, and we've also, obviously, we've seen, we have some code enforcement going on with, our nail salons now. We've got, where we.
And that's something else we really gotta look at too.
Yeah.
Where we have a provision where, like nail salons can complimentary serve alcohol with their services.
And I was like, no,
Unfortunately.
that's not happening.
Yeah, no,
That's not what's
evidently,
happening
they're
where I
like,
go.
oh, if you'd like a beer, here's a tall boy, it's $5, and, that's, so we already, Johnny's on the spot on that one, so, okay. I think
Not
the
by
only,
names, but,
yeah. The only thing I have, I need an executive session as well.
okay. All
So
right.
you're gonna add this under.
Yes, so we'll need to add this under new
You got it,
business.
Christie?
Sure.
It will be resolution 2024-07. And it'll be item E.
E is an evil.
Efficient, as in efficient.
He's an extra.
All right, now we'll go discussion items, update on ongoing projects. Mr. Pepper.
Thank you, Mayor Bender. First thing I want to say is that we're happy to have Melissa back. I personally, in this situation, are very happy. I'm very happy that she is back. She had a great time in Norway and saw the Northern Lights and all that good stuff. She highly recommends it, right?
It's on our list.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's on our.
It's on our list, yep.
So just referring to the project update, I'll run through a few of these things. I know we've got several other items in executive session, so I want to make sure we have time for all that. But Town Center construction progress project, so Smithville, this week, weather permitting will begin to work on, you'll recall, there's going to be a sidewalk in between the library and the new market building. So there'll be the building and the outdoor seating, and then there'll be a path right there that will meander between the two. They're going to be working on pouring that now and begin to kind of remove some of that construction fencing on that side and things, drawing that back a little bit. The mason work, the brickwork is complete on the building. So if you get a chance to go out there and walk around the site, you'll see all that's complete.
I need to go, I haven't been over there.
Does look good.
Yeah, the storefront door install, they're going to work on that this week as well, and some things with the elevator as well. But they're pushing to be done within the next month with their original scope of work. And then as we move to the tenant build-out, as we're working on that lease now, the tenant has our most recent draft and is looking at that, and is working with our architect on some interior build-out items. We'll get started on that.
When we do the interior build-out, could we include painting the electrical service that faces Wisteria to match the brick? Because right now it's the crap gray, and one of the really big things we wanted, when we were designing the market building, was to make sure that all those utilities were seamless, not seen, didn't stick out like a sore thumb, and it just does when you're driving down Wisteria. But
Okay.
I wouldn't want to do a change order on the current contract if we're going to be paying for work later on, just to include it in the scope.
Okay.
It's very minor, but I figured you didn't want me out there with a spray can taking care of it.
In the dark of night where it's,
You know, they might catch me with that new drone.
Sidewalk project's progressing, is moving well. The city business cleanup beautification, so the recycling program enrollment is going better this year. I think the
I got my
online,
letter.
I think the online portion for folks has taken a big burden off of Public Works from having to answer a bunch of phone calls. Obviously, we're making notes there, particularly about what can be done better next year, but they have told me that it's better, much better than it was the year before. Now, another issue, and I think I've talked to a few about this, related to recycling and recycling center, and David can kind of shed a little more light on this. So, one of the services that the recycling center offers is not only a place to sort your recyclables, but if you've got yard waste, so if you've got, trees on your yard and you're pruning those trees and you've got branches and things like that, you can bring a truckload to, truck bud load to the recycle center and dump it, and then we'll chip it and, do what we're gonna do with it. We also allow folks to throw away, junk, old TVs or, things like that they can dump and we'll haul off. And we had some folks, and I guess, I don't know the history on how long we've been doing this, but one of the things that we've done is if there's a contractor that does somebody's yard for them, let's say an elderly person that can't, get up the ladder and cut their branches and do that sort of stuff, we say, well, let's get a letter to that person they can sign saying, I've hired Joe Contractor to be my yard guy, and he's gonna be bringing stuff on my behalf, to the center for you guys to dispose of for me. And that's been a free service that we've offered. But over the last, several months, we've seen a lot of these landscape companies come into the city with, a long, trailer, not a truck bed, multiple times a week, with these letters from residents saying that they are servicing these people. When the amount of debris that you're seeing, there's no way that it's all just that person, right? So we feel like some folks are taking advantage, I guess, of the service that we offer. And in conversations that David and I have had on how to curb that, it seems like the only real answer that we can see is that we essentially just don't allow commercial businesses, in operating within the city to come and dump freely at the recycle center. We just have had too many experiences with folks that we feel like aren't being 100% truthful with us on who exactly they're servicing and how often and that sort of thing. I'm bringing that up now because it just, if you have input on that, that's fine. But, when you make decisions like that, then you guys get calls saying, I came to, dump my stuff, and this guy's been doing it for 20 years for me, and now you're telling me he can't. And so, to avoid, you guys call me or David saying, what's going on down there? We want to give you guys a heads up on the issues that we're facing with trying to provide this service as equitably as we can, while at the same time, not letting people take advantage of us in that way. David, is that pretty accurate how I described that?
Pretty well. I mean, just a rough figure, we're spending about $50,000 a year to grind the yard debris. This month, it's been about 3 weeks since we grounded, it's almost full. Wow. And I've got just a handful, this is just an example of that lever. And a lot of the landscapers are actually filling out the customer's part, signing their name, just different things. And there's just a handful of them that's using a Xerox one that they came in and brought stuff for 3 months. Wow. That's supposedly the same stuff.
Yeah.
And you can tell they're forging a document essentially. But it's just a pretty large number of people that are doing that. And it's just a lot of confrontation my guys are having to make at the recycle center with people arguing about the amounts and having to be charged for the extra load when it's an extra large trailer bigger than one like pickup size load. And it clearly states on our rules for the recycle center that it's for the citizens of Snellville, no businesses on there. And I think if we just stuck to that rule and cut out all of the landscapers, there's also people that clean out houses for foreclosures and stuff. They're bringing gobs of stuff to our dumpsters to throw away. That's a business also.
For free.
Right.
Because they live in the city.
Right.
Yeah, and the only flip side to the people who are dropping, well, I guess on all of it is, that material is going to go somewhere. We don't want them to dump it in the city somewhere. Then we end up paying even more to take care of it. Right. So that's my only concern.
But they should be going to the dump and paying for it.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand, but I also see the shape of our streets and
Yeah,
our dead
yeah,
ends
yeah.
and our parking lots that are hidden. So I don't want to create more of a problem.
So they just get blown out into the street.
Well, and maybe the compromise is we just start charging those businesses. We can charge them, if we're having to pay $50,000, then they can bear that cost.
We're also not a landfill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
facility to be a
Right.
landfill.
We're a recycling center, not a landfill.
So, I mean, it's a delicate issue. I mean, we're not trying to,
And there will be, if changes are made in that policy, we will all get calls. I mean, we get them, haven't gotten one in a long time because we pretty much allow the second load of stuff for a fee and, that kind of stuff. That was one of the things that precipitated that because, somebody's cleaning out their house, they bring one load of junk and they've got just a little bit more to get up there, and to have to.
I've personally witnessed people coming out of Loganville and coming up to Snellville. And when I'm coming into the Public Works right by the recycle center, they're at the recycle center dump. So it's not coming from the city, but a large portion of that pile is coming from outside the city limits.
so I mean, David and I are exploring it. I mean, that's the option we've come up with. We'll talk about it some more and let you all know what we decide. But I just, if you have input, if you have concerns about it, it's just one of those policies that can become explosive, as far as you guys getting calls.
Yeah.
Is that something we could do, like an annual membership for the landscaping businesses, and they pay a fee for the year?
Yeah, I mean,
That they could distribute
that's an
to-
option.
But
I mean, I think
then it'll increase
Yeah.
even
Yeah, then it
more,
becomes,
because then every landscaper will do it.
If they go to the inner landfill, a trailer would cost them $65 to $85
Right.
to empty.
And it's 40-minute drive round trip at least.
Extra load with us is what, $10, $15?
$15.
So
It's a bargain.
so in essence, we're subsidizing a lot of these people's, costs.
Their business.
And we just, it's not fair to to citizens your taxpayers who are funding it, for these businesses to take advantage of it. And I'm sure there are some that are doing stuff in Snellville, but they're doing stuff all over, and, that's not,
Right.
it was not the intent.
Right.
Well, they do the
of
3
that.
yards before, put it on the trailer,
Yeah.
and then they'll go by
Yeah.
Gretchen's house and put some of her clippings in on top, and then they can say, well, it came from Snellville.
Yeah.
Not that I would ever do that,
Yeah. So David and I are still talking, but I just, that,
sign the whole mess.
a ban may be the right move. And I think, it's two separate issues. We're talking about the landscapers. As far as the folks that are cleaning out houses and just throwing all that away, I think that one is easier all-out ban, because, then becoming a landfill, as far as someone coming in, flipping a house and trashing everything and dumping it for free, essentially, or very minimal cost is.
How are we gonna know who those
That's
people are?
gonna be a harder
As
one.
opposed to like, I had 9 bags the other
Company
day.
we know that's coming in, that she's been cleaning her basement out for 2 years.
oh, okay. Oh.
And I don't know of a house that large in Snellville.
Yeah, that one will probably take more of a case-by-case,
Yeah.
basis of folks that we see, recurring folks that are bringing, junk, that have been bringing it for 2 years
Some
or.
of the furniture companies and stuff are bringing stuff, throwing in the junk bins.
Oh, gee.
And
I
they're
know they-
recycling the cardboard, but they're throwing their styrofoam and maybe some old furniture and stuff like that. So that's a
Yeah.
business also that shouldn't be allowed to use the city, the citizens'
Yeah.
resource.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. We'll keep you guys up to date on what we do. So moving just down to package sales implementation, Chuck, anything?
We have our hearing coming up next month. So we got a court date, and so as soon as we know the outcome of that, we'll be able to report back. If there will probably be an appeal, though, for either way that it goes, whether we win or lose. So, but at least we have some progress moving forward. We do have a court date. So.
Briscoe Park, so Lisa and her team are moving the contents, equipment and otherwise, of the current maintenance building there into the new maintenance building that they have. We have received 5 bids for the demo of those buildings. It's on the agenda tonight. And we're expecting Lisa to be done kind of moving her stuff out, and then the rest of the stuff she'll put in a roll-off dumpster, junk, and we'll haul it off, by mid-April.
Or we'll just take it to the recycling
I was gonna
center.
It's very funny, guys. We will haul it off on our own, and not use recycling center. And then those guys can get in there and do that demo work there. And then Gwinnett County has moved all the contents out of the old library. So they had a big push to get all of the framing, book frames, or not book frame, bookshelves and tables and things they wanted. They sold those. They left quite a bit of other things in there, some of which we want to keep, so Lisa's going to keep that. But there's a vast majority of things that, they still needed to take out. So they've gotten that squared away. We've got a quick claim deed with some just comments that we need to share back with them to make edits on, and then we'll sign that, and the building will officially be ours. Lisa's been working on getting some prices for new carpet and, stuff in the bathroom and that sort of thing. So when the time comes and the building is ours, then we can move forward with some of those basic things that we've talked about, just to dress up the building, and whatnot. North and Wisteria had a meeting with someone last week, got a few counter offers on some of the things for right-of-way that Chuck and Jay are going to help me work through, and we're working towards putting that out for bid in June and having that ready to go. Traffic calming, Larry and I have had some good meetings with some folks. We're going to go out one more time tomorrow to try to get the last few bit of folks that we haven't been able to get. We've had a couple experiences where we know someone's in the house because we can see them, and I've learned to see a peephole go black and then go in. Someone looked, trying to wave and leave our card. So this is our third time going out there. We feel like the third time. If you got my card, you got the letter. If you don't want to talk to me, then I'm assuming you're good with what we're going to be doing, and it's kind of time to
Make a sign, hold up in front of the people. We're not selling anything, we're not from a church.
I think we're very non-threatening
You
looking
must have been
guys.
knocking on my door, 'cause that's what I typically do.
And then we'll hopefully, Backbone would start late this week or early next week with some of the initial things they need to do to get that project off the ground. And then just the town greens, the final item, I know that's another discussion item, so I'll just kind of yield, my time to that item going forward. So thank you.
Item B, ribbon cutting policy, Mr. Warner.
I just want us to have a cohesive policy for ribbon cuttings, who gets contacted, who's involved, so when we get an email like we did a couple weeks ago, we can say, this is where it goes. And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It's not, I don't think it's appropriate for us to come up with it, but I would like staff, in conjunction with stat, to just come up with something. If it's 3 sentences, that's fine. I know we want to make sure that they have all their business license and inspections done before we have a ribbon cutting, and we're good.
Yeah, I think, what I would say to that is just have them contact Brian, our PIO, or Kelly in stat, and just say, contact them to schedule that, and in the interim of when they get that email to when we actually schedule it, Brian can get with Jason and plan to make sure they've got all their permits and everything in order, and then I think it's just off to the races.
But I would like something that says we do them Monday to Friday, or we do them on these days,
Yes.
just so it's clear.
Not Sundays.
Yeah.
Well, but you've got to also remember too, that it is a business owner, and the business owner can decide when they're going to do their
that-
open house or their
absolutely,
ribbon cutting.
But as far as,
Because I think on
The
that
city
one,
being-
it
On
that one,
wasn't,
it's-
yeah, I mean, it wasn't like it was planned
Right.
from a city perspective to
No,
do that. That was their choice. And, I mean, I think we should be able to respect that if that's what they want to do. And then if we're invited, great, and if somebody can go, great, and if not,
I
then,
agree 100%.
yeah. So just gotta, people
They
get to
had the
decide.
chambers, they had the chambers ribbon and the scissors, they were all set with Gwinnett County to do that, only they weren't coming out on a Sunday either, they're just Monday through Friday, so.
So we can definitely work on something. I'll just say in the interim, contact Brian and Brian
Yeah,
can do
and
the
again,
verification.
Don't spend
side.
10 hours on it. If you, just,
Okay.
But typically for all of for our newbies too, if you get a contact like that, I usually just forward it on to and copy Kelly and Brian and say, Brian's our PIO and Kelly's the head of our stat. They do all the ribbon cutting stuff. They're copied on this email and just let them deal with it from there. All right.
oh, it actually segues into the next one anyway.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's you
You want to
again.
announce it?
Item C, business license applications and informational handout to applicants.
I think it would be beneficial. We've had some issues in the city recently where people were running a business and they got a little outside of the bounds of what they were allowed to do. Whether that was just all sorts of different issues. I don't know when it's been probably 10 years since I pulled a business license in the city of Snellville, and at that time, I went in, wrote a check, gave you a piece of paper, I got a piece of paper back, that was it. And I think it would be helpful if we had, whether it's a packet that's sent via email or whether it's actually printed material that lets people know at minimum where to look for the code sections that deal with their business, but it would be fabulous if they had some guidance, not only on the services that we provide, whether it's ribbon cuttings or whatever, a commerce club, whatever, but also in this category, this is what you're allowed to do. And it may head off some of our issues with code enforcement.
A lot of times, they don't even get a business license.
I know.
So we don't get the opportunity to educate. We have a lot of those flyers available. We have signage, we have county contacts, and all that stuff is in the package. Why don't I bring the package, and then you look at it and see what
Okay.
you think would
That'd be
help.
great.
Because a lot of times, just like you said, you sign that one paper, that's all they do anyways, and the rest of that stuff goes in the trash. So most of the information is there. John Dennis, you know that there's no document that doesn't exist for business owners. So we shed plans, because that's where we run into more so is the building, but we've seen it in the businesses now. So it's just the proliferation of some of the smaller businesses that haven't really thought things through is where we get a lot of our problems, and we try to help what we can, but I'll bring you the packet, see what you think.
Okay.
See where you
I just
can
want to make sure
strengthen it.
we're being as proactive as possible.
We
Not
have
only to
to.
help them be successful, but also hopefully to take some burden off of either our police or our code enforcement and having to go back and take care of issues that
Seems like
you
somebody
can't
should have-
force them to read it.
Yeah, we
But-
over-information them now,
Okay.
but I think that's okay. I
Okay.
mean, at least we can say, hey, did you read your packet? And half the time, we don't get a phone call when people do stuff, so it's, the more we can get out there, the better, I
Yeah.
concur.
Okay, and item D, the town green turf maintenance. Gretchen?
Well, I noticed on the projects update, it says the project will begin in March 2024. Or, no, I'm reading the wrong one. The goal is to complete the project prior to the start of the stat events in May. I personally think it's pretty much a waste of money to do anything at this point before the stat events start in May. About the only thing that I think could be beneficial, and I don't even know if this is something we could do this year, is if the bricked area that we have at the entrance to the green, if it was expanded a little bit in the two directions that both the traffic and the foot traffic occurs, I think that could help, but I don't think doing anything more than that, spending any more money is worthwhile at this point. And Kelly and I have talked about, last year when we had the horrible muddy problem, wheat straw was put down, and it helped a good bit. And so we've talked about getting a couple bales of wheat straw, putting them on a pallet in that fenced area on the green, covering it with tarp. And then if we have mud, we have it there that we could put it down, and then once we use it, we can always get a couple more bales to hold in that fenced area. But I just don't know that we should do anything more at this point. But what I would like to encourage all of you to do is, if you could come to one farmer's market in the summer, like during the time in the morning when we're getting vendors in, getting them in their places, like between 6:30 and 8:30 in the morning. I think it would help you a lot to see what we deal with getting vendors into place. I think that would help you to give some idea of what might work there and what's not gonna work. But that's all I wanted to add to the conversation we had at the last meeting.
Okay, everybody good with that?
Yeah, I don't think you can put bales of straw in the enclosure because there's, it's electrical and you can't store flammable material near the electrical panels. Maybe there's enough space, maybe there's not. But
And really, I wouldn't buy, like, go ahead in June and buy some bales to have in there. I would just, if it's rainy that week, go out on Thursday or Friday and go grab a couple bales.
Can we store them? Is there space behind?
Because if it's gonna be out in the weather, I think even under a tarp, I mean, that stuff breaks down and it gets kind of
If it's
nasty.
like it works as a bunch of wheat straw from us, that if it's a rainy week, I'm sure we could reach out, right? And you could drop
Yeah,
some.
it's, and I mean, we could put it in a bag or cover it or something. Leaving it
So
out
they've
there
got
probably
somewhere.
wouldn't be ideal, but if it's,
I think you might get snakes and little things in there too.
Oh, thank you.
but we got.
But anyway, it did work, that did help a lot last year. That's why we talked about that as a possibility to.
And Dave, from a public works perspective, is wheat straw fine for cleanup and for you guys to,
I mean,
You know,
if
is there
it-
other
if you
options
wanna
out
put
there?
some weeds out there because of what the nature of what wheat straw is.
yeah.
Well, they won't even live out there.
They'll be better than the Bermuda.
Yes.
But I mean, all in all, just to help with the mud and tracking and all, it would be about the best thing to do probably.
Okay.
But I think just trying to do something with it to help. I know with what Sam had talked about, he gave like 3 options of things to do. And I think with what we use it for, doing the lesser and just attempting to improve it through aeration, fertilization, and lime, and sanding and stuff, and see where it goes. Might be a better option with the use that we use it for.
I would say try to get it aerated as soon as possible, and I would agree with Ms. Scholes that extending the brick pavers maybe 10, 15 feet, so at least it takes care of the slope, because,
Yeah, that really bad spot right
yeah,
there.
because when that gets muddy,
Yeah, it gets muddy.
It makes it tough for people to, even with the straw, so. And if we have a really rainy period, I would ask that for Food Truck Friday, we try to keep the trucks up where the stage goes, because that's more reinforced than down around the southern end. And I know you try to keep them out of the mud as much as possible, but I think that would be a good thing. But we can look at that.
And then the Veterans Memorial update. Tom?
Oh, well, you're the head of the Veterans Memorial.
I am.
No, okay. Years ago, when the Veterans Memorial was brought up to be built, the city dedicated the land and a separate entity took care of all the construction and maintenance going forward. And since the individuals who were helping our mayor take care of that have rode off into the sunset, I think it's appropriate for the city to take the maintenance and take over the actual structure, making sure that it's handled, because to some extent the city already is, and I don't want us to be put in a position where we have been expending city funds on something that we shouldn't or anything like that. So I would say we take, if the foundation is willing to donate it back to the city, that we take the physical memorial back to the city's control and then allow the foundation to handle the update and maintenance and sale of the bricks so we can keep adding. Hopefully we never have to add any more service members' names, but that would be my ask of my fellow council members, because our veterans deserve more than a slight.
Yes.
So what's going on right now with it is everything's been updated. We had to redo all the electrical that was in the vault. We've had to redo pumps. We've had to, because we had some leaks out there. It took a while to find it. We had to replace a lot of things trying to find the leaks. So I think all of that is done and fixed. There was just something that
Sump pumps.
the sump pump had to replace. I need to reimburse the city. So up till now, all of those repairs, the city has done some of those. Some we've had to hire a contractor. And when I say the city's done it, maybe somebody from Public Works did some of the work, but the Veterans Memorial has reimbursed the city for any of those costs, any of that equipment, even if the city bought it. I get the invoices for those. With that said too, because of all of the major repairs we've had, like the year before last with the fountain and everything else, and the water leaks, our funds are depleted. So we need to do some fundraisers. Right now, the only ongoing expense, other than the repairs that come up, is the monthly electric bill, and that runs about $150 a month. When the last go-round with cleaning things up and redoing some of the electrical, the uplighting that was in the water shining up on the fountain was taken out. And Dave Emanuel has been talking for a while about needing to replace those because they're in the water and they're 10 years old already. I can't believe it's already been over 10 years. So he was looking at getting some new lights put in there, and then he's moved and kind of put that on the back burner, and I just don't know what I'm doing when it comes to looking for lighting to go in the fountain.
He's
still looking.
He said he was going to send me some stuff. But
he told me to do it, so.
Well, there you go.
He's passing
And
the buck.
I think he said, well, Norman would be good for that. And that's great. That's wonderful. I'll be happy to look for lighting solutions. I know Norman will join me. But we don't want a Veterans Memorial that means so much to the city
Less than the best.
to be reliant
Right.
on whoever follows us in office. We need to make sure that our veterans are remembered better than that. They
Yeah.
deserve better than that.
Yes.
Because,
And I think with all the upgrades we did on the pumps and everything, I think we should be good for
right,
a good while on
right, and I'm
repairs.
not trying to say, oh, let's take it over so we can spend a lot of city money on it. I just want to make sure it has the longevity that it deserves.
Yes.
But for the most part, I mean, the spend on it's like the $150 a month for the electric bill. Typically.
Yeah, so whether we need to
And
do that
we
on
sell probably another 5 or 10 tiles a year. It's, not gangbusters, but,
right.
and we still have room. I mean, there's still quite a few tiles out there that can be sold and replaced, so.
So I don't know what we would need to do. It's something that the foundation would have to decide on, but
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that in perpetuity it's taken care of. We've got a cemetery, I think we could
Yeah.
probably manage to take care of a veterans memorial.
Especially after everything's done with the
Yeah.
repairs.
Yeah, so finish that
All
up,
that
finish
money
that up.
into
and then
it.
we'll-
This is the
Take
time,
over
yep,
now.
this is the time to do
Well,
it, 'cause
and-
you probably got another 10 years out of most of that
Yeah,
stuff.
and I know some.
We could talk with maybe Wesley Brett too about lighting for in there. Not for him to do it, but just to give some ideas of
Well,
what to put in there. Okey doke. All right, with that, we do need a few minutes for executive session. So during the work session of the mayor and city council of Snellville, Georgia, Mayor Bender announced that certain matters should be discussed in a closed session of the meeting.